reconvening the Alabama State Board of Education. We will begin our work session for this Thursday, December 10th. And we welcome everybody who has joined us. For our agenda number 1, updates from the State Superintendent. Dr. Mackey.
Thank you, Ms. Ziegler. Before I proceed, make sure everybody can hear me. Is that good?
Hang on, Dr. Mackey. Let's do a little bit of a test.
Okay.
We can hear you, Dr. Mackey, but we can't hear Ms. Ziegler as well.
Okay. I hear you perfectly fine, Dr. Stewart. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you.
Dr. Stewart, how is that? Better?
That's better. It seems like you're farther away from the microphone.
But it was better right then. When you just spoke, it was, I think it's much better. You can try, maybe say something else.
Okay. Now, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
A little bit
Yeah,
better?
I hear you perfectly fine.
Okay.
Maybe you could raise it a bit.
Okay.
But whatever you did, it did help.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just sliding on that.
No better for you.
Okay. Miss Bell, are you with us?
When you look down and you speak in the microphone itself,
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do
I
better.
noticed the neck is the photo.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And there we go. I was gonna say, I did not see you all, but I can see the room now.
And I think the only one we're missing is Dr. Reynolds, but he'll be back.
Okay. So let me, Ms. Ziegler, I will go ahead and get started. I'm going to be kind of brief here at the beginning. We have a guest who's going to join us to talk about letters program. We're very excited about that. You see there are 2 items on there. One for the letters update and then one for PCG update that are in response to questions board members had last month. And then I know, so what we want to do is, with your permission, is go ahead and jump into the letters thing in just a minute. Give me about 3 minutes, and then we'll jump into letters because we have somebody on the line to present. And then we have some PCG discussion. Glad to answer any questions about either one of those. We have Dr. Elizabeth Davis on the line also. And then, of course, Dr. Boyd is there. And what I would ask is that it might be easier if Dr. Boyd kind of guides the agenda today and plays the role I would normally play, just by having somebody in the room. I know it's sometimes easier to do that, especially as we go through the later items. But now I'm here, obviously, can talk, can answer questions, can do whatever we need to do. And then we'll, at whatever point you all decide you want to break for lunch, take a lunch break, and then finish the rest of the agenda, part of which is discussion on the mathematics textbooks. And I know everybody wants to get to that. And before it gets too late in the day and everybody's tired, and Dr. Boyd has worked tirelessly with Dr. Jones and the committee to get together a new report that we feel really good about. I think much improved position. I think the board will be really happy with the progress that's been made there. But let me just say this: you don't see anything there on the agenda about my updates, and that, as we've been planning for this week, knowing I would be remote, I said, well, I don't want to get into too many things. I want to answer any questions board members have, but don't want to bring up too many new items now. But so there's a couple of things I do want to mention. So first of all, our 2 new board members who will be incoming. We're losing 2 great board members. They're on here with us now, and Jeff Newman and Dr. Tommy Stewart. And we're sad to see them go, but we've got good people coming on. Had multiple conversations with them. So Dr. Tanya Chestnut will be taking that District 5 position, and Ms. Belinda McCrae will be taking the District 7 position. We had intended to have orientation for them this past Monday, December 7th. But with me in quarantine and Jessica in quarantine, we both had a part in that with just things that were happening last week. And those 2 ladies, we left it to them, and they felt like they would like to just push that off for a couple of weeks. So we're probably going to reschedule it for early January. we may reschedule it remotely like this, so they don't even have to come into the building. We're gonna leave that up to them. But we do have a really good agenda worked out. We just were not able to do that on Monday. We do have, we have secured a date for the two of them and for, Mrs. Ziegler, this is news for you and Mrs. Bell, but y'all are re-elected board members. We'd love to invite you too. So the two of them wanted to have a ceremony on the Capitol steps, and so we reserved the afternoon before the February board meeting. I think that's the 13th. I've got to look now at my calendar. But after their first board meeting to be seated at a meeting will be February 11th. I'm sorry. And so we have reserved the afternoon before, February 10th at 3 o'clock, the Capitol steps, just as Tom Parker has agreed to do the swearing in. Now, it's going to be, much different. I hate this, but it's going to be much different than what we would do in normal years because we can't do the big reception and things like that. So what we're going to do is have an outside ceremony, which they requested that's to be is in line with the health orders as we can. We'll have everything socially distant. We're not, it's going to be, we're not even renting chairs or anything like that. So it will be kind of a brief ceremony, but we're excited to do it anyway, and that they wanted to both be sworn in together. As you know, we can do that at their county courthouse or at their house if they want to. But they want to be sworn in together on the Capitol steps. So we set that up. They will officially take office on the third Monday in January, but that is, of course, it's the national holiday. It's the week of federal inauguration, and so it felt like it would be better to wait until they're coming to Montgomery to set up an official swearing-in ceremony. So that's just something. Everybody's obviously invited to that. We'll have to all spread out, but there's lots of room on the front of the Capitol, so we'd be able to do that. And we would love to go ahead and re-swear in our two other board members if you'd like to join us. And we'll follow up. We'll talk a lot more about that as we get closer. But just put that on your calendar if you're interested for February the 10th.
Dr. Mackey, just make sure that that's in compliance with state law and have the forms to be signed prepared because there is a time frame that you have to meet. I've been sworn in as many times as I have been, and you have to be sworn in. You cannot just continually, the next 4 years if you've already been elected. So make sure that everything is done according to law and within the time frame that is certainly required by law. And I know
Absolutely.
the Tom would certainly honor that as well, but just having it for convenience, unfortunately, is not part of it. It has to be done according to what the law provides. So,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
I really double check that because last time I had to push for it, and when we finally got it set, it was close to the time limit.
Okay. Well, we've been working on that, and I think we've got a good plan. And Chief Justice Parker and his office have been great to work with. So as we move forward to that, other thing I wanted to mention to you is about our, the work we're doing with COVID right now. So things are really tough. As I mentioned my superintendents before, we have more and more school districts that are just going remote. And for the most part, it is just about the lack of enough adults to run the school. They just cannot keep going. I'm sure you're all hearing from people, as I hear from them every day, and people are just, they're just worn out, and they're tired, and they're working really hard. And hopefully this Christmas break and kind of an extended break will be good for everybody. I will tell you that even though a lot of them are going remote, I'm getting more and more calls from superintendents about actually extending the winter break. And so not remote, just not doing school for, say, another week or going to mid-January before they start back. Only one district, I think, and I don't even want to say for sure which one because I'm not sure. We've talked to several, but I think one has officially, their board has acted and done that. But I think that several more may do that in the month of December. In other words, instead of starting back on January 4th or 5th, they are delaying their start back to January 11th or even 19th, to give themselves a longer winter break, to give their folks time to rest and get ready for the winter and spring months. We do feel good as we move toward the spring. We've had many conversations about vaccine. There's definitely vaccine coming next week. They will begin giving out the vaccine, but they won't be available to anybody in our schools. The early vaccines will only be for healthcare workers. And then as we extend, there will be vaccines available for our school nurses. We believe in the second round, so probably in January, probably, I can't swear that for sure. And then we believe teachers will be able to get vaccines in the third round, and hopefully all these rounds will be back to back to back. They'll all be pretty close to each other. But there's not even been a childhood vaccine done yet. So those will be for young, many of our students qualify as adults. We'll be careful how I speak, because but as far as young children, I don't think the FDA has approved any vaccines as childhood vaccines yet. So we continue to have discussions every day, and we will continue to work with public health on that. We're also working closely with the High School Athletic Association. We had calls yesterday, calls again this morning, and so I'm very worried. I've said that publicly, and I'll say it here briefly again. Very, very worried about winter sports, because unlike our fall sports, football and cross country, the volleyball indoors, but usually not quite as crowded as basketball and wrestling can be. And so we made it through the fall sports. They're all finished now. But as we go into the winter sports, basketball and wrestling, indoor track can be very tight quarters. And we're worried about that. And so there's probably going to be, there's a lot of rumors out there about canceling the season. We have no intentions to cancel the seasons. High School Athletic Association and Public Health have no intentions to cancel the season. But we do have concerns about crowd control, and I think you will see some rules coming about how many people can be spectators in a gym, and I fully support limiting that. We've got to do something to support our local principals and coaches in the work they're trying to do to push the season forward for our boys and girls, but also to keep them safe. And then, hopefully by spring sports, we had our first call yesterday to plan for spring sports. And we feel a lot better about what spring sports season looks like, because all the spring sports are outdoors for one thing, and they're, hopefully we'll have some vaccine by then. So those are things that are going on. They're kind of in the background. I appreciate the support from the board, your calls, your public comments have been very useful and helpful in so many ways, and we really do appreciate it. So with that, Ms. Ziegler, I'll turn it back over to you. I know that, what I'll do is I'll turn it back over to you and let you give it to Dr. Boyd at the appropriate time, and y'all make the introductions from there.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with letters.
Yes,
The letters update which was brought forth from our board questions from our last board meeting in, what month are we in? November. So letters, please.
Sure. Before we turn it over to letters, I'd just like to say that Dr. Tracy Stritchett and Elizabeth Davis has been working really well together on this particular project, and they've been working with Ms. Laura Wolf, and we're really pleased with the progress that's been done so far with the letters training. So at this point, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Davis.
Dr. Davis? Her lips are moving.
She's muted.
She's unmuted.
You might be unheard again.
That's good.
I'm sorry, Dr. Boyd, who did you say was working with Ms. Wolf?
Tracy Stritchett.
Tracy, that's right.
Yes. So we'll give her a few seconds, and if not, we'll go ahead and see if we can get Ms. Wolf. Can you hear us, Ms. Wolf?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you? Can you give us an update on the letters training and the project?
I most certainly can. I wanted to start though by saying what an honor and a privilege it is to be here with you all today. The work that you all and your educators have been doing over the last 2+ years is quite exemplary, and it has been our honor to work with all of you here in Alabama. I have prepared a short presentation to you all about what we are experiencing right now, what we are enjoying with the letters implementations that are going on across the state. And would it be all right if I shared my screen with you guys so that you can see the presentation?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's make sure I do this correctly. Okay, just double checking that you all can still hear me. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm sorry because I can't see you when all I can see is my presentation right now. So once again, my name is Laura Wolf, and I am the representative for letters in the state of Alabama, and have been working closely with you guys and your educators to bring this quality professional development to all of you on the science of reading.
Ms. Wolf, excuse me, we cannot, are you showing us something from your presentation? We only see your lovely face.
Oh, well, yes, I'm trying. Let's see. Hang on. Let's go
Okay,
back.
Dr. It
Can
popped
you
up.
see it now?
No, it popped up just for a second and then went away.
Okay, let's try again.
There we go.
Well, let's wait a minute, make sure.
This camera is on. Good.
Okay, we've got it now, Ms. Wolf.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for letting me know before I just kept talking and talking.
You're welcome.
Okay. As you all know, Lisa Notes is the author of letters, and she, as you guys as well, firmly believes that teachers are the most important factor to our students' success. She's been quoted as informed teachers can explain language to students, including sounds, spellings, and word meanings that might be confusing. They use lessons based on reading science and understand the process of learning to read and write. Research proves that science matters. That is Dr. Moats' mantra, and mantra of the state of Alabama as well. You have almost 10,000 reading scientists among you who are doing difficult and heavy lift of learning this science and then, more importantly, implementing it into their classrooms for their students. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about what that is looking like in the state of Alabama. We know that the science of reading is founded on Scarborough's reading rope, which is two major strands shown here, the blue and the red, one being word recognition and one being language comprehension. We currently have 3 cohorts of educators in Alabama who are in the process of learning Scarborough's reading rope. Cohort 1, which I'll show you the numbers for in just a moment, has completed their journey of learning the content of this reading rope. They finished theirs in May. Cohort 2 is about 3/4 of the way through the content, and cohort 3 is about 25% through the content. So let's talk a little bit more about who those cohorts are. There are 9,928 educators currently in or having just finished letters in the state of Alabama. Those educators are experiencing one or more of 3 letters comprehensive reading courses. The major course is the Letters 3rd Edition, represented there in the blue column. That is the one that we call Letters 3rd Edition for K through 12. You have 7,933 educators currently in that cohort, or in that group, in that course. The second column in the red is the Letters for Early Childhood Educators. That is primarily for pre-K and kindergarten educators in our state, and you have 1,225 engaging in that course. Where the rubber meets the road really though is where your leaders are buying into this concept as well and are leading that effort in their buildings and in their districts. You have 770 building and district level administrators engaging in the Letters for Administrator course, which focuses not only on an overview of the content that their elementary educators are learning, but also in what it means to be a literacy leader in their buildings and how to better monitor and lead the progress of the educators that they lead. I want to give a special shout out to many of those administrators also though, and you should know this, that many of those 770 are also included in the 7,933 number. Some of these administrators in your state are taking it upon themselves to also learn the entire 2-year content course that their K through 3 teachers are learning as well, and are doing that training alongside their educators, as in addition to the administrator course. So let's look at how these break down over the course of all 3 years. There are 372 over cohort 3. This is the current cohort that you guys just started this summer. We added on 372 administrators in July, 616 early childhood educators, and 4,661 K through 3 educators in non-full support schools in July. Likewise, we added 4 early childhood educators from full support schools, 154 administrators from full support schools, and 995 teachers and coaches from full support schools. Since July 1, these educators, in the middle of a pandemic, friends, have attended a total of 1,105 sessions of letters training that has been offered across the state. And obviously those have been offered virtually. They've been offered in 3-hour webinar segments. And your teachers and administrators have attended 1,105 of those. We have offered 85 sessions for administrators, 46 sessions for early childhood educators, and 974 sessions for our K through 12 teachers. Obviously, it's primarily K through 3. So what does that look like when someone engages with the letters course? It is a blended delivery system and has flexibility for the educator in regards to how they work through the online content. They log into an online platform, and the first thing that they do is they are given a pre-test just to do a little pulse check of what do I already know about the science of reading. They also engage in print material that is an overview of the research and a review of the content learned in the online platform. Then they engage in face-to-face or virtual live trainings with National Letters educators. And I am proud to say that the authors of letters, Dr. Carol Tomlin and Dr. Louisa Motes, have been part of the training for your teachers so far, as well as Dr. Lucy Hart-Paulson and Colleen Longo and others who are the authors of the other courses. Your educators have had one-on-one and small group time with the actual authors of the courses themselves. And they have had so many wonderful things to say about us here in Alabama. We've made it a little bit more specialized for our full support schools who are in the letters course right now. They are getting the same blended approach as all the other teachers in the state, but we have added on a really important element for these teachers to ensure that they are getting as much as they can out of the letters course. We have added on consultation sessions delivered in small groups for the educators and administrators who are in our full support schools. These consultation sessions cover actual overview of the bridge to practice, discussion about ways to make their implementation stronger, and reviews of what maybe they didn't quite grasp from the sessions before. These have been highly valuable, as some of these groups are as small of a ratio as 1 to 2, and none of them are any larger than a ratio of 1 to 10 educators. Now, one of the challenges, and I really cannot say enough good things about the dedication from everyone participating in letters, is that they're doing this in the middle of a pandemic right now, especially, this year. We are on year 3. Years 1 and 2 were a cakewalk compared to what everyone's going through right now, as I'm sure you all would agree. So part of trying to make this as accessible to your educators as possible is we have worked closely with Dr. Strichick and her team at ARI in making sure that the times that we offered as much as possible can accommodate the other challenges that your educators are experiencing with everything else that they have to do outside of their science of reading work. With that said, I've said before that we offer these in 3-hour segments. These segments are during school, either 8 to 11 or 12 to 3, or after school, 3:30 to 6:30. And we even have sessions offered on Saturdays, either from 9 to 12 or 1 to 4. I was a little bit skeptical at first about offering the Saturdays because I thought, wow, these teachers need a break. Nobody's going to want to do this on a Saturday. Well, let me tell you, was I ever wrong? Those Saturday sessions have been extremely popular, and these teachers are logging on a Saturday morning after battling everything they do Monday through Friday, and are continuing with their professional endeavors by engaging in the letters content on Saturday morning. I'm so proud. So what have they said about the training once they're in there? After every session, attendees are asked to provide feedback. It is anonymous feedback. And one of the things that they are asked to do is rate the training. 81% of all people who engage in the training session have ranked it as excellent. 9% have ranked it as good. 2% have ranked it as needs improvement. And 0% have ranked it as poor. I can't say that there is anything else that we could evaluate in the middle of a pandemic other than nap time that would get as high of a ratings as we're getting right now out of this. With as many challenges they have, they are still recognizing the value in what they are doing within the letters work. So we created a little Wordle here too that is taken from the 13,755 narrative feedback forms that we also received. Not only do they rate them based on the scale on the previous slide, but they're asked to give narrative feedback as well. I want you to take a look at the Wordle here and show what the primary feedback we are receiving in the narrative description. Great, reading, the brain, sounds, learning, vowels, teaching. There's even on here the names of the different theoretical models, Aries phases, Scarborough's Road, students, modeling, help, learning, teaching, phonics, my job, helpful. Your teachers are so engaged, and your administrators, and we couldn't appreciate them more. So here's a little bit more of the narrative that they're telling us. The one in the middle is, of course, our favorite. The content of this PD should be mandatory for every educator. That comes straight from your people. Many aha moments. Very knowledgeable, good communicator. I love a smart Southern woman. I plan to take back many of the strategies that were presented in this presentation. My session was superior. I was completely lost when I took the pretest. Now I am getting an understanding of what I am learning about. Discussing the Spanish phonology will help me better assist my ESL students with sound articulation and decoding skills during phonemic and phonics instruction. How specific. I learned that letters will assist me with improving my reading instruction. I must be proficient in order for me to assist my students in reaching their fullest reading potential. I plan to take back many of the strategies that were presented in this presentation. You both handled the virtual learning challenge beautifully. The reading simulation was eye-opening to the struggles some young readers experience. And finally, this was a wonderful session, especially considering the fact that it was all online. Very informative and helpful. Those are the words directly from your educators, and this is just a few of them. As I said before, we've gotten over 13,000 narrative responses similar to these. So let's talk about the specific data of the growth that they are experiencing. As I mentioned before, every letters educator starts with a pretest, a pulse check, if you will, that's designed to pinpoint what you already know and where we have to go. The average pretest score of every user in the general population of letters users in the state of Alabama is a 59%, which I will tell you, having access to the national data, is actually not that bad. It's actually pretty good compared to some other areas. And the average pretest score of the teachers in our full support schools is right there with them at a 52%. So a bit lower. These teachers are typically have been teaching less time, whatever the reason, but their average pretest score is at a 52. But let's see how we're leveling the playing field across the board, and your teachers showing dramatic gains. The middle column there, the lighter yellow, the middle color yellow, shows the post-test scores of Unit 1 of Challenges of Learning to Read. So that's the one where they outline the reading science and why we are about to engage in the course we are in and the knowledge of the theoretical models themselves. The average post-test score for both populations was a 96%. For Unit 2, speech, sounds of the English language, which focuses a lot on obviously phonics, phonological and phonemic awareness, and how that works with your students as early learners and emerging readers. Their post-test score on that unit across all users in cohort 3 was also a 96%. That is very impressive growth from the pre-test score we saw across all domains. So I mentioned that the full support schools are getting consultation sessions in addition to all the other elements of the letters training. Since September 1st, when we started the consultation sessions, we have offered 257 of these sessions to the educators in full support schools. 126 of those sessions were with 1 to 5 participants. 99 of those sessions were with 6 to 9 participants. And 32 of those sessions were offered in groups of 10 or maybe slightly more. Dr. Carol Tolman has led she's one of the co-authors of letters, has led the efforts of the consultative sessions in Alabama and is actually assigned to 4 of the Alabama schools and is the one providing the consultative sessions herself. And then her team, there's a team of about 20 consultants who are delivering the sessions to all the schools that are full support across the state. So here's some of the successes we're hearing about from this consultative model in the full support schools. This is from feedback they provided. Despite challenging circumstances of the pandemic, teachers are engaged and they want to learn. I can reiterate that. I get calls, numerous calls of how can I do better, and I'm so nervous to have the time with my consultant. I want to do the best I can when my consultant is with me. These educators are hungry for this content and are really being receptive to what we are providing to them. The consultative sessions are small enough to build relationships directly with the attendees, to problem solve literacy instructional challenges at specific schools, getting very granular. They practice skills, assessments, and techniques, and ask questions of the highly knowledgeable instructors and consultants that are there to work with them. In addition to the one national consultant with them, usually there is also another person there in support of that consultant, and they tag team with each other to provide the services to those schools in those small groups. Now, I won't lie to you, there are challenges, of course, because these consultative sessions are occurring during the regular school day so that they can be in small groups. The teachers are very stressed with teaching during a pandemic. They understand the heavy lift that is ahead of them, not only by virtue of the fact that they are a full support school, but by virtue of the fact that it is harder to reach kids during the pandemic. Because of that, the stresses on the teachers clearly have an effect, even though they're trying to overcome it. We all know finding substitutes to be able to attend sessions is difficult. difficult. We are working to make ourselves as accessible as we can be, but there's only so many hours in the day, and finding substitutes so that the teachers can attend all of the sessions that they want to and need to is obviously a challenge. On top of COVID, we got to experience a fun little hurricane, didn't we, this year, down at the southern part of our state, and that forced some of the schools to reschedule. And so the reason why that number is not higher in the total number of sessions offered is some schools have had to reschedule their day 2 session for January due to scheduling and other issues related to schools being closed for the hurricanes, etc. Okay. So, what do we do in letters? We teach the what, why, and how of literary instruction over time, providing educators with what they need in order to implement change within their buildings and with their students. That is the end of my presentation, but I would love to answer any questions that you might have regarding what's happening with letters in the state.
Board members, any questions?
Yeah, I think, oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Let me
Dr.
say
Mackey.
this, if I can jump in before the question. I have got to brag on Laura. She has been an absolutely amazing partner. She is an Alabamian. We claim her in every way. And just been super. And, you know, we started having these discussions during that, the whirlwind summer when I was coming in as state superintendent, and she did not put us off or say, hey, I've got other things to do. And at that time, it was not this huge contract with 10,000 people. We were just a few hundred people, all the money we had that we could pull together, and it did not matter. I think she would be as committed to training 3 teachers as 30,000. And I just cannot say enough about what a great partner she has been, and the folks at Letters and Board Service. And I think Dr. Davis is also with us again now, and I know she had a introduction plan, so she may have some words she wants to say if she can before the question. If Laura, is that okay, Laura? Can you stay with us a few minutes?
Absolutely, and thank you for that Christmas present, Dr. Mackey. I feel the same way.
She gave us a Christmas present. This is huge. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Dr.
So,
Davis?
can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, yay. I was trying to be technical and use AirPods, and I had my son help me last night to make sure it all worked, and now it doesn't work. So I'm back to just no AirPods. I quickly just wanted to say, yes, even in the transition with Gay Finn going to Department of Early Childhood, and Gay was our boots on the ground at the State Department working with Laura daily to keep it going, to answer emails, you know, that to work completely with the Letters supports. So she has worked with our transition. We've reassigned Denise Perkins to pick that up right now. As we're again continue to add and continue to working with DECE, because just like when they first rolled out their grant, we also, with the funding, include all educators pre-K through 3rd grade. We know the importance of that. So we still have that cohesive collaboration, and also the daily updates. I know yesterday, I think Laura sent Denise an email that we had 54 more folks on our waiting list, because our goal in January is to start cohort 4, which will pick up all of the folks on the waiting list right now, because that is right at, I think I have right at 1,700, which again includes your early childhood, which is the pre-K, your Letters 3rd edition, which is the 2-year, and then also our administrators, and then the EL portion. So we're trying to stay on it, and we couldn't do it without Laura's assistance, DECE, the State Department. It's a collaborative that is working beautifully to try to service everyone. So, and also, Laura, will you clarify? I want to make sure some of the folks that have had challenges, either with getting sick or can't find subs, once they start this, they have 3 years to complete it. And while that is, you know, we want them to finish in 2 or less, even if they can, but that is a blessing right now. Is that correct? 3 years?
You're exactly correct, Dr. Davis. We intentionally built in that extra year because we wanted to be as flexible as possible. I think we must have all had a little bit of ESP because we built that in pre-pandemic, but we are certainly appreciative of it now. And it has allowed us a great deal of flexibility in meeting the needs of those who might need to pump the brakes a little bit.
And I promise, last statement, then I'll mute myself again. I think the flexibility of meeting our needs has been beyond what we could express in gratitude, because traditionally the quarterly face-to-face with the work in between, which is a beautiful cycle of inquiry, that is, it helps and it's ideal, even though it's not ideal to pull, folks out once a quarter, but with the work we wanted to do with our full support schools and the need to really provide that, I want to say, onboarding during the summer so that we wouldn't have to pull during the school year, but also could work and provide that, shifting that and planning for that 4 to 5 day summer training, which is a lot, but knowing how to balance that. They worked so hard with us to do that, and so I just appreciate that, because we know that model then gives us a second delivery option pending the data and the support, of course, because we do have teachers that would rather do it during the summer and then use that, using those PLCs within the year. So thank you, or I can't say enough, and I'll mute myself.
And thank you, Dr. Davis. You're exactly right. The beauty of letters that you do have that flexibility, and that we want to make this work for what you guys need.
Ms. Wolf, I was wondering, can you send us your presentation so that we, some of your numbers and all would be very helpful, and send it to you?
Yes.
Could you please send it to Dr. Boyd, and then he can get it to all the board members, please?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Thank you kindly. Any other board members, questions, please? Dr. McCarty?
Dr. Wolf, you've been very helpful at the college level as well. And so can you speak about the number of colleges and the progress that you've made with bringing letters into some of the college prep courses?
Yes, ma'am. And I apologize, I neglected to include that in the official slides. That is in my notes to discuss, and thank you for reminding me. We are extremely pleased that the institutions of higher learning in the state are also engaging with the letters course in different ways. We have professors from almost every institution in the state, if not every institution. I'll need to double check that. I mean the professors of the literacy professors from the different institutions who are in the course themselves right now, in all of the courses. But specifically, we have some institutions who are already implementing that with their pre-service teachers. Jacksonville State University, under the guidance of Dr. Janet Baptiste, is on year 2 of the implementation with her pre-service students in both early childhood as well as elementary. And then also Dr. Karen Dennis at the University of Mobile has been using it with her students as well who are pre-service as part of their coursework. Other institutions are starting to explore that option as well as they engage in the course themselves, and are looking at how science of reading in the pre-service world will look in every one of our institutions as we start to implement, if not letters specifically, the concepts of letters and the science of reading that we are expecting of our in-service teachers. It will save us a lot of time in the in-service world if a lot of this is covered more in depth in that pre-service world. So just know that even our colleges of ed across the state are doing their work as well, and they are engaging with us and others to make sure that this type of systemic change is starting even before the teachers come to us.
Thank you. And then one other question. We've also had presentations from NIHAPS as well, and I'm not sure that I understand the differences in what House offers and what you offer, and then I think we also have Windsor Learning as well. And I understand they're all fabulous programs, but I'm not sure that I understand perhaps I'm sure they have different missions, different end goals, and if you could maybe talk about yours, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I couldn't hear the last of what you just said, I'm sorry.
Just
The last few words you said.
if you could just speak about what yours offers, what letters, like your end goal
Yes.
for those who participate and complete your program. What is your end goal for yours as maybe a way to compare and contrast with what some of the other programs with reading do?
Yes, okay, well, I can speak obviously very specifically to what the end goal of letters is. And the end goal of letters is for teachers who engage in the course fully, that they will become better connoisseurs of curriculum themselves. As we know, letters is not a curriculum. It is a pure professional development for the teacher that makes them a better user of whatever curriculums are given to them. As such, we consider it pure professional development. We get asked all the time, where are the lessons that go with it? What do I do with my kids? What do I have to renew every year? What is this going to cost me? And the answer is nothing. This is for you. This is to make you a better educator and to make you more knowledgeable about what the science says is the way that students learn to read. And when there are reading difficulties, as we know that many of our students in the state have, what do I do? So we are not a curriculum. We are not something that is student-facing in that regard. But what we do is we offer teachers and administrators the opportunity that when they are facing a student who has a challenge, then they better know where to go with what curriculum or strategies to use with that child to make that student a better reader. So what does this mean? It means that we are not telling you to use a specific book with every student in your state. We're not telling you buy this for the next 15 years and put it in your library. We're telling you that with the knowledge you have, you will make better choices, not only for your students, but in regards to curriculum and other decisions that you have to make in regards to literacy.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members?
I didn't have a question, just wanted to say that it's really impressive to hear the response from the teachers and administrators. This is a powerful way of putting everybody in and validating the work that you're doing. When you're working with reading, to know that you've gotten that pat on the back from the Letters program and that guidance, and to work with the original creators of it, I mean, it's very powerful. Would love to see the same kind of balance in math.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, you're welcome. Thank you.
And
I
Ms.
will
Wolf?
say we've braced ourselves for getting maybe a little bit of negative with all the other frustration. So we were more than pleasantly surprised with all the positive response.
And Ms. Wolf, you might not be aware, there's a few of the board members themselves who have attended some of these letters training. So we, when we're afforded that opportunity, we stepped in to find out for ourselves how this works. And so I do wish you to know that there are some of us that did join in, shall we say.
Well, I definitely appreciate that and applaud that, and I hope you enjoyed your time with our letter session.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I don't think there's, I'm sorry, Dr. Davis, sorry.
No, may I say one more thing about a connection of the bigger picture?
Please.
And while Laura is in here too, because I know we have talked about this, so Dr. McCarty's question is spot on in what we're trying to kind of develop, which is an overview or a visual of some sort to show exactly what you asked as far as the not 12 or 15 things or programs, professional learning, different things that the different, our different partnerships offer. And so when we spoke back in March maybe, with Night House, which was the first one that I think that you mentioned, the reasoning, of course, was because of Louisa Moat's connection on their board as far as connecting some of those high-quality instructional materials that some teachers may need quicker than others, as well as during or after. Well, we have teachers that go through this and they can use whatever's put in front of them, and that's what I love about letters, even though I've not been through it completely at all, is the understanding of being able to look at anything that is related to teaching reading and say, that doesn't meet the science of reading quality, which is what we want from all of our teachers. But we also know the reality is some teachers, quicker than others, need the materials or some of those high-quality instructional materials, which is why we, one of the main reasons that we looked at providing another support that couples with letters and may not even be needed. We are remain fully committed to providing that funding for all pre-K through 3 teachers, administrators, but also the connection with, if I go through whatever the training is, say that it is Night House or letters, is having that count towards that CALT pathway, which is so critical, because we have heard your request and we see the need to want to have those in all of our schools would be a dream, but at least one in every district. And so how beautiful it is to be able to provide Night House and letters to our school systems that can be used on that pathway, and that's what Laura and I have talked about as well in that journey, because they're building that in to be part of it. It's almost, in my mind, the easy way to understand it is I could use my EDS towards my doctorate if I wanted to. I didn't have to. I could get my EDS alone. So that's kind of the trajectory with both Night House and letters that we see blossoming to build this across the state. Is that, Laura, please help me if I said something incorrectly.
I'm not 100% versed in the CALT process through Night House, but I trust your research in that, and that I do know that Night House and letters complement each other. I would not say that they are the same thing.
No.
Right. And I know you agree with that, which is why I feel comfortable saying that.
Absolutely.
But we never claim that anything is a silver bullet, and we know that it takes a minimum in order to meet the needs of all of our kids, and we are proud to be the primary professional development provider, but we know that we are not all that it takes.
And whatever it is in that professional development that helps teachers understand that, basically that high-quality instructional material, we need to find it and put it in every professional development. So thank you. And I just wanted to try to show how we are trying all to connect to the bigger ultimate goal here in Alabama. So thank you. I will thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you.
And then,
Go ahead,
I'm
Dr.
sorry, Ms. Ziegler, if I might say just a little bit. So back to what Laura's doing with the colleges, that is very important. We would like to, I'm going to say 2 things that are going to sound like they're opposing points of view. So she's kind of working herself out of the job, because what we want to do is train every K-3 teacher, every pre-K-3 teacher in Alabama, and we want to train all our pre-service teachers so they don't have to be retrained later. So this will be done. But at the same time, she's not completely working herself out of the job, because every year we will hire new teachers. And so that's one of the things I've been having to talk to legislators about. Our legislators have been extremely supportive, so I don't want to sound negative anyway, but they've been really good about providing funding to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. And so we've come back this year and asked for another huge bucket of funding, and we're going to ask for it next year, and year after, and year after. Now, eventually, the number will come down. because we'll have fewer annual teachers. But a few people have asked me, well, when will this go away? When will we be finished? Well, if we do it right, we'll never be finished, because there will always be new teachers being hired, and those new teachers need to be trained immediately. And our Alabama trained teachers, I really am in hopes that within a couple of years, if you're studying to be an early childhood teacher in an Alabama college, you're going to be getting letters. Now, as Laura said, it could be letters, or it could be light letters. We've not said it has to be letters. But as you know, we're working with another outside group, the Barksdale Institute, to go into our colleges of education and help them align all of their early childhood literacy courses. Well, the science of reading, well, that's going to align directly with letters. And when they look at, well, is there something out there we can get that helps us do this? Letters is going to be one of the things. I won't say it's the only one, I have to be careful, but it will certainly be one of the things they will automatically move toward, because it definitely aligns with the work that Barksdale is doing for us too. So all these pieces are coming together, and it's just thrilling to see that. I know that our board members have been a little bit on the inside, and you can kind of see sometimes when the puzzle pieces are all out on the page, on the table, but they're actually only like 3 of the pieces connected, that it can feel overwhelming. But now we're getting more and more and more and more pieces connected, and you can see how this is going to be a truly beautiful and remarkable puzzle. And again, thank you, Laura, for joining us today and doing that. And I'll mute myself again, Ms. Ziegler. If I keep interrupting, Ms. Ziegler may have to mute it from that side.
And let me say to Dr. Mackey that I've worked with the Barksdale Reading Institute for the last 10 years with my work in Mississippi, and they are some fine people. They are very knowledgeable. And in regards to what Dr. Mackey mentioned about how long is this going to take, Mississippi's been working with letters for 8 years, I believe it is, the Mississippi Department of Ed, and for the first 3 years it was pretty much level. And then for the next 5, it has, as Dr. Mackey said, it has decreased because their internal capacity is stronger and there's just not as many teachers left to train because we've trained everybody. So that number does naturally decrease, and I do work myself out of a job a little bit. But I feel confident, like he said, that there will always be more people in need of the services that we provide. Just hopefully not as many, because I want them out there actually already serving students, just like you guys do.
Well, thank you again. We appreciate it. And Ms. Wolf, don't forget to send us that presentation. That would be very, very helpful to us.
No problem, we'll do.
Okay, thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
All right, board members, we're going to go on to the Pcg report. Dr. Roller is going to.
Sure. One thing I'd like to
I'm
add
sorry,
that
go ahead.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't thank Dr. Tracy Stritchett for the good
Yes,
work that she's
and
done.
Dr.
She served,
Davis.
yeah, she served as the bridge between the State Department of Education and the Let Us Learn program, and connected those 2 programs to the LEAs and worked really hard to recruit the teacher staff to the program.
Excellent, that's right. Well, and we appreciate that very much because that's not an easy task.
So Terry Roller is up next. He is our assistant superintendent. He wears many hats. He works with compliance monitoring, prevention and support. He works with charter schools and a whole lot of other programs. So he's here today to give us an update on PCG. Mr. Roller.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd. So first, let me say good morning to Madam Chairman. Thank you for having me here today, this opportunity to present to Dr. Mackey, our other state school board members. Let me take a moment to say it's been a pleasure working with our 2 outgoing members, in case I don't have an opportunity.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you got to speak up just a little bit. When you look up, it's better, but just a little bit quiet.
How's that? Better?
That's great.
Yes, to our outgoing members.
Excellent.
Yes, sir. To our outgoing board members, it's been a pleasure and an honor serving under you, with you, and supporting you in case I don't see you before the next meeting. I want to take a second to tie together a couple of the things that were mentioned in the letters report. Dr. Mackey is committed to success and excellence, and people that are industry leaders and they seek being the best in what we do Obviously, we are trying to move Alabama's position in how we perform on a national level. Dr. Mackey's been committed to that drive and being successful with that. We're developing protocols to help us get there, and we're committed to executing those things. And so I just really want to take a second to tie some of the things mentioned in the letters together, like the science of reading. We didn't used to talk that way. Letters, connecting with the universities and developing a protocol to do the letters training with pre-service so that when they enter the field the next year or the upcoming years, they're ready. Those are industry standards and expectations that we're talking about, that we're moving towards making the way that we do business with education in Alabama. So I'm excited about that. Thank you, Dr. Mackey, as we continue to lead the way with industry standards, protocols, and expectations. So let me direct you to the presentation before you now. This is the Pcg report that many of you are familiar with. We've been talking about Pcg for a while now. And so what I wanted to do was just walk through and show you just sort of an update of what's going on now and where we are. So if you look at the first slide, you'll see that we have prominently listed across the top, Alabama Achieves. That's our strategic plan. As many of you already know, and many of you are around, our strategic plan guides the work that we do every day. Everything that we've talked about today, innovative programming and the Literacy Act and incorporating the work with letters and the professional development for the local levels, all of those things can be found on subsequent pages in the Alabama Achieves strategic plan for the state. And so that's what we're up to. That's what we're doing. We're working on implementing the things that the team that was selected and put together and worked on the strategic plan has laid before us as our work. PCG came in the fall of 19, and they started meeting with and having conversations with stakeholders and educational leaders. PCG is a public consulting group, and they're a partner. We've talked about in the presentations that you've had earlier today, industry standards, expectations, educational support, educational partners, people coming in and working side by side with us as we lead the work outlined in our strategic plan and deliver these services, support, and leadership to our local education agencies. They present reports to the legislature. They were brought in by the examiners to look at what we're doing and offer suggestions and recommendations as we incorporate those best practices and industry standards. Professional development, as you would look at it. We are adding the best practices in developing individually as leaders within the State Department in our respective areas, whether it be teaching and learning, whether it be prevention and support, whether it be any of the other areas that make up the State Department. We're using the support of PCG to help us in our practice. So they issued a study. You've seen the study, you've seen the report. Here's a copy of the report. I think it was made available to our board members, so you can refer to your copy of the PCG report and the recommendations that were offered. And so from this report, we started working. Which way should I point? That way. That way? Okay.
Oh, you know what? I clicked it by accident.
Okay.
Now it worked. Sorry.
So from that report, we overlaid our strategic plan and we started working on an action plan for improvement based on everything that drives what we do daily with our strategic plan. Here's some of the recommendations that PCG offered us. There were 5 key recommendations. There were 46 additional recommendations, but with those recommendations being put in place, I'd be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to remind you that while all of this was going on, if you look down in the red, we were dealing with COVID. So our main priority and our main focus at that point was supporting all of our school districts, all of our superintendents, all of our staff, and most importantly, our families and our students. So all of us had roles that are designed by the departments in which we lead, the strategic plan, But then we also had an emergency triage role that Dr. Mackey and Dr. Boyd and Mr. Craig all worked together, probably with some of the influence and guidance that state school board members were bringing information back to the department saying, hey, you guys need to look at these areas as well. And we started triaging families and supporting them in ways that we never thought were really part of the way that we do business. We did a press conference via remote login from Dr. Mackey right before we started this. What a new way of doing business in Alabama. One of the things that we tried to do for a long time is create opportunities for some of our more experienced teachers to transition to do flipped classrooms and remote learning. Well, we had no choice once COVID hit. So now, in looking for a silver lining in all the things that we do now, you now have some of our most seasoned and experienced educational practitioners in the state incorporating and working with technology in their classroom. That's a silver lining. That's a positive thing that's come from this. So we're all being flexible and working towards incorporating whatever we have to do to be successful during COVID. That became our priority. There was an implementation phase of this plan that PCG worked with us in incorporating these recommendations. They wanted to create a master strategy plan with us as we were moving forward. They wanted to offer suggestions to develop sustainable change through planning. They wanted to help us be more accountable as we were doing the work that we were doing. And then we wanted to really look at shifting our culture from being task-oriented to strategy-based. And they said that's with a sense of urgency because there were so many things going on, especially COVID during this time. So in May of 2020, they established a working group. In July, they helped us complete our strategy and our action plan. And from July until now, the department, all of the different leadership within the department, we've met on an ongoing basis. There have been over 52 small group and individual meetings with the State Department staff to help us. So let's talk about what that really means. So PCG is not only an educational partner in helping us in what we do, we're doing the work, but it's also pretty neat to have another person, remember, outside agencies, industry standards, industry expectations, best practices, project managing techniques and tactics and tips. They bring those things to the table. So it's kind of neat as we're doing this work to have a group come in and say, well, have you thought about this? Have you ever, incorporated these types of practices into what you're doing? And probably one of the most exciting and beneficial things that I personally received is the professional development and the ability to operate more with a better understanding of what project management looks like. So industry standards, professional development, those are things that have come from these 52 small group and individual meetings. 6 working sessions. They helped facilitate those sessions. They monitored and supported us in the work that we were doing. They presented reports and updates to the state school board members in previous meetings, and they're helping us by providing technical assistance. Probably one of the most exciting things too, as we've been working on the work, is we do things remotely and use technology. So we've used the Teams application, and we've embraced that and incorporated that faster than we probably thought we would have been able to do it. And then actually added some apps that go along with it to help us with our planning, managing work, sharing work, editing work. And so really just a neat introduction of supporting technology as we're working together, because we're constantly modifying our staff, our meeting places, our meeting spaces, and how we communicate and collaborate with work. So that's been a fun part of it. So this plan to action that we helped develop, I want to take a second to talk about. I'm gonna go back and show you just a quick brief. Here's a quick screenshot of it, but I'm going to go back and tell you what all of this represents first. So this lists all of the activities and tasks that are associated with Alabama Achieves and our strategic plan. But I want to just go back for a second and tell you across the top of the page, which you probably cannot see, I can provide additional copies of anything that you need for closer detail. There's the task listed, then there's a manager, an owner, a consultant, a helper, and an approver. So There's a due date to when that activity is to be completed, and then a status that tells you, are you on track, are you off track, what's going on with it. And again, those are business practices, industry standards, things that we haven't always done in public ed. We just kind of set our days randomly, or we know that school's starting or school's finishing, or we like to see something, or we saw a new way of doing something and thought maybe we should add this. Is it really connected? Who's in charge of it? Who's supporting it? Who's someone from another department that can help enrich this and make this better? So what we really loved about this support that they gave us on this while we were working on the work was, hey, who owns this? Who's the secondary owner of it? Have you thought about, collaborating with others in the State Department and letting them be helpers in consulting on this? So that was a very neat strategy and tactic that they brought to us. And so our tracker looks like this. They supported us with a template. You can see all of the activities, I'm sure. When you drill down close enough, you'll see work on the Literacy Act. You'll see letters in there. You'll see professional development in there. You'll see all of these things that we've talked about today. You'll see that the yellow column, very, very neat, the yellow column there, it really sticks out. That shows you that all of the things that were due in December are on track. And if you look off to the column right next to it, you'll see the person who owns the activity. And what I take from this as we're doing our work is that this is a new way that I'll do business probably from this point forward. Every assignment, every activity, every task, everything that we do from this point on, there'll be an owner within our division. So that when you want to know who's accountable for the success of this, well, Ms. West could say, Terry, who's the owner of this project? Well, the owner was Dr. Boyd. Okay, well, I need to see Dr. Boyd about what's going on and get these updates. Or he could say, well, I was the owner, but the manager is Dr. Davis. Well, Dr. Davis can give you the support on everything that you need to answer all of those questions. So we now have a new business practice of how we do work at the Department of Education. We had 13 tasks from our strategic plan, Alabama Achieves, that was paced out with our project that we had to be done with. And those 13 out of 13 are on track for December. Now, there are over 60 total. And what I will tell you is that as we're moving forward, each department is taking the tracker that you have and they're developing their own sub-trackers and subdividing the work on a lower level within their departments as well. So you will have eventually more tasks than the 60 that we have. And so it's growing every day. But currently for the ones listed for December, we're 13 for 13 on track. I want to, before we end and take questions, I want to draw your attention back to the logo that you've seen very prominently throughout the presentation. That's the Alabama Achieves logo. So if you go back to our strategic plan and you look at everything that you've seen today, Alabama Achieves is throughout everything that you see because that's driving the work that we're doing. Everything that we're doing right now is connected to and associated with the things that are listed as priorities in our strategic plan. And at this point, I'll take any questions. Madam Chair.
Any board members that have any questions for Dr. Roller? And just so you know, the presentation was in our packet. Any questions? I feel like I'm talking to the steeple. I am.
Mr. Roller, like business and so first of all, let me say thank you all to every department, every owner, every manager that has embraced this in the middle of the most difficult time in education for our country, not just our state, but our country. So I just want to say thank you to every leader in this building and every office for embracing this report and being willing to work on this while keeping school going. Because I know that you've had an unbelievable mountain before you every day. But I would like to know, like business, we're all having
to make adjustments. So do you feel like that you have flexibility built in? I know that we'll have to be having discussions about the strategic plan moving forward, because there are some targets in there that we may have challenges or hurdles before us due to COVID, and being able to achieve some of the things as in that first year, in that second year, in that third year. That pre-COVID, we were pretty much on track. So will you be updating the board? Do you feel like you have some flexibility as you work with PCG? Are they helping you develop new targets, that sort of thing? And I'll hush and let you answer.
Okay. Thank you for that question. Madam President, I'm going to start with an answer, and then I'll also defer to Dr. Mackey and Dr. Boyd. I will tell you that the plan has been from the beginning that our strategic plan is a living document. So we have dates, and they're projected dates, and as we're moving down the road, we're working towards those dates. Unforeseeable and things happen, and we have to modify and change what we planned initially. And so what we've done is we put the most important strategies and things that have to be done right now as we move forward with Literacy Act. Training has to be planned, it has to be scheduled, funding has to be allocated. There are things that we know that we have to do that, despite what's going on with COVID, we needed to move forward with it. But then there are other things that are essential, like expanding mental health. That's one of our goals for Alabama Achieves. We know that that's a priority right now for COVID. So that shot up to the top of the list. Literacy was already there, but now we're pushing mental health to the front, because we know that if students aren't healthy and safe and comfortable, it's even more difficult for teachers to be able to do what they're doing. So we're shifting and moving around priorities, but that's always been part of how you do business with strategic plans. They're living and breathing documents. Dr. Mackey, I'll yield to you, and Dr. Boyd.
Well, 1.2 is the fact that 13 out of 13 goals were met at this particular point. So for December 2020, at this particular point, there are 13 goals that we should reach, and we're on target for all of them. And that's a testament to each individual owner and manager of a particular project. So it's all about working together as a team. I think the PCG effort has been a really good effort, particularly with the fact that we have periodic meetings where we share where we are, the obstacles that we're facing, and what strategies we will do to overcome those particular obstacles. So we have a good platform so far. It's been working well. Our next major deadline is May of 2021. Many of us have already started the work in that particular area. And even in our departmental meetings, I know the meetings that the Division of Instruction has, we talk about it each meeting that we have, and we have at least one meeting per month. So we have those particular discussions to make sure that we're all on target, and that we all understand that we have to call each other's brothers. We have to make sure that we monitor each other and provide assistance where needed. So personally, I feel real good.
And I can, I don't really have that much more to add as there are questions. It is, several board members have asked me, y'all asked me from time to time over the last many months about the progress, and it's time intensive. I don't want to, in fact, you guys can't see me. I had, here in the PowerPoint, I think I might can get my video back up so you can see me at least while I'm chatting from nowhere. But it does take a lot of time. We work hard on it. I do a call that's about an hour and a half a week, and then usually I'm pulled into, on average, probably 2 other calls a week that are anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. But other folks are doing that too. So we each have a person. I don't know exactly how many people are on the PCG team working with us, but I'm gonna say there's like 8 there. And we meet once a month. And I'll have to say this. Now, some of you know I pushed back this summer and said, because we were meeting weekly with the whole team, our whole leadership team and their team, and we just couldn't keep that up. We did that for a couple of months, and I said, time out, we cannot do this. So we regrouped, so they've been really good about that. They understand that everything else that we're having to do. And we went to having those meetings just once a month. And then we have breakout meetings. So I have a meeting with just me and a couple of their team members, as I said, once a week. Other people have meetings with just, their contact person on a weekly basis. And then we'll have group meetings. So one of the things we're working on right now that I'm attending is what we're doing with our teacher shortage. So we have our teacher shortage task force. We're working through that report still. As you know, we have another group that's working the quantity and quality roundtable. And so those are separate groups that are working. Well, they all need to be tied to our Pcg report. So there's a section of the Pcg report tied to that. And we've been meeting, Dr. Boyd and Dr. Langley and I have been attending those meetings too, among others, Jane Meyer and Siobhan Cummings. So it's a lot, but we do believe it's going to be, it's helpful. It helps us organize the work. They are not making any decisions, and I know y'all know that, but I want to say that clearly out front. Now, they have, they don't make decisions. They make recommendations. We have taken some of their recommendations, and we have not taken some of it. Sometimes we have to discuss that because there have been some things that they wanted us to do. The consultants that I said, no, that's not right. That's not the right fit for our department, for our state, for our time. It might be somewhere else, and it might be here in another time, but it's not for now. So we have very high quality, deep discussions. But I would tell you this, it's been said already, but if it had not been laid over the top of COVID, it really would have been I probably would have embraced it deeper at the beginning because it is a lot of work. But we have found a way again, as I say, we've pushed back, we've worked together really well. The consultants are excellent. They're all, I'd say they're pure-hearted. They want to help. And so we work through these issues. They'll be with us for, I forget how long the contract with examiners goes, but it's sometime, I think in 21 is when their contract is up. But our programming, kind of that plan Mr. Rutherford laid out, actually goes with their deadlines through 22. So just to anticipate, we'll probably continue to, everything that needs to be done and every project that needs to be had won't be done at a certain time. And also, so I'll say one other thing, and that is that sometimes you see red cells on here. Now, one of our board members, this is an inside story because Ms. West and I have talked about a podcast that she introduced me to and we've been listening to. And on one of the podcasts, Alan Mullally, who was the head of Boeing and then the head of Ford Motor Company, talks about when he came to Ford, that when they did a chart, all the cells were always green. Even when they had crises and they were losing money and they had problems that were being reported widely in the press, all the cells on all their reports were green. And so part of their company culture was you just always tell the boss everything's going well, even if it's collapsing. And that was one of the things he had to address was, if there are issues, let's make that cell red and let's all focus on a solution to that issue. So I'm going to give you an example here. This is one that again, I've talked to some of you about. Our website, you know that there was work on developing a new department website before I became state superintendent. And the issues around our website, how large it is, how much information's on it, and how it's not really mobile friendly, were well articulated. So I inherited that project along with some others, the testing and several things. And that was one that first year we kind of just, okay, we're going to get to that, we're going to get to that. We got the report card done for the first time after 6 years. We got the testing done, and then we jumped on the website. And we kind of worked on it for a year, and that has floundered. You remember back in the spring even, we came to you, we did a presentation on what the company out of California had done. But we weren't real pleased with it, but they were making some progress, and it fizzled. They just have not done what we needed them to do. They did good work in other things. They've done other good work for this department and this board. But on our website, they were not getting it done. So that was a case where that's also, we've added that on our Pcg Tracker, our website. redesign. But that's a place where we said, okay, this is not working. This is a red cell. Don't call it a green cell if it's not. And we've actually changed contracts. We're not involved with that vendor on the website anymore. We have worked with AUM and gotten a couple of internal website developers, and they're doing amazing stuff. I looked at it yesterday. I feel like, from my perspective, they've done more in about a month than we had seen done in many months before. So I feel good about it, but they've had to kind of start from scratch. There's lots more to that. I won't go into all the detail now. We'll talk about it after lunch. We can, but it just has to go back to my point. When you've got an organization this big that does this many things for this many constituents, there are going to be times when things are ready, when things are not working as they should work. You have to identify those and move on. And I think, if anything, that is the key component that our work with PCG has helped us internally to recognize that, when something's not right, you have to own it, identify it, raise the hood and see what's going on, and come up with solutions. You can't just keep going, because we all know what happens then is other things start breaking down too. So it's been a good process, but it has been a lot work.
Thank you, Dr. Rowland. Are there any more board questions?
Yes.
Ms. Bell?
Thank you. It's actually not a question, some questions, but, of course, people watching may not realize that this has been mandated by the legislature, and perhaps there's some good in the organization part of it, and just the professional development. But in essence, what you have is an outside organization from another state coming in and as Dr. Mackey in some ways telling our department what they think needs to be done. In speaking to other operations, State Department operations, and board members from other states, this is unique, and at some point we hire people to do their job, and it has been mentioned that we have faced, and of course Alabama, it's also been mentioned, it's not alone, some very difficult times, unique times, things we've never had to deal with as a state or as a country, but we've been able to work through it. At some point, our managers need to manage, and I continue as a board member, I've never seen as many, they don't even have to do with COVID, but just complaints, concerns from parents and teachers and principals and so forth, where they're not getting the assistance that they expect and have experienced in the past from our department. These are definitely unique times, and it's not to say that we have wonderful people in our department, because we do, and they have done so much to try to assist. But on the other hand, yes, this opportunity to talk to other states, people who experience similar problems, and that is helpful. But at the same time, if you're not in the department, then you can't help these local systems. And of course, we cannot always go out these days, but we can assist in other ways. So how much has this cost so far? And at the same time, it has been mentioned, when will it end? I would like to know a definite answer with that. Is it 2021? Is it May? Is it 2022? Will it continue because the legislature wants it to continue? All of those things, that's the kind of update I would like. I don't need a PR campaign for PCG. I can go online and read all the great things about what they say about PCG, and there are some good people associated with them, we've met them. But the point I'm trying to make is, at some point, we need to be released to do a job. And if the people who are hired to do the job cannot do it, then they need to find another job. Because our salaries are comparable, and this reorganization should come from those who have been hired to organize the department. That's how it's been done well in the past, and we've had some problems, yes. But the point that I'm trying to make is, we need to have a release date. You can talk about all of these fluffy things, but at some point, the job needs to be done, and I don't see it. A lot of people, that's what I'm hearing out there, is that there's frustration, and they need help. They don't need some of the things. And yes, we do, and that's, I originally said, why don't we just contact somebody within the state, and thank you for engaging them, and I think we have talent in other areas in the state that can help instead of going outside the state. But anyway, that's my expression of frustration, but I'm also projecting what others have said with me.
Thank you. Any other board members? Dr. McCarty?
I appreciate so much this work and all the meetings and the time and the effort that's been put into this. Could, as a request, I know Dr. Langham is sending us a weekly status update on various issues that we've requested. Could we include these as the status changes? I mean, there's no need to send it out every week if it stays the same. But if, for example, there's movement on the website, if we could have what action has been done, just so we're kept in the loop of how it's progressing, I think that would be very helpful for us if he could just include that in his weekly update to us.
Okay. You can do it.
Thank you.
Let's write down my notes. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to comment too. I think
Dr.
it's
Reynolds?
possible. Yes, we're doing a lot of meetings, and there's a report of myriads of meetings and state superintendent's meetings. Are we getting input from the LEAs and the people in the field and the public and the legislature in the degree we're moving forward and becoming more effective?
Good question.
Sure. We are getting some input here, but I think it's important that we have to keep in mind that we're going through the coronavirus pandemic, and almost, I would say that 70% of the questions or the concerns that we're getting at this particular point is related to those issues, specifically whether the concerns with having in-person instruction, the concerns with having football games.
We can't hear.
I'm sorry, Dr. Stewart. I'll try to speak up toward the ceiling. So to answer the question asked by Dr. Reynolds is, yes, we are getting feedback, but I think we need to be clear on the fact that a lot of the feedback that we're getting is related to the coronavirus, and the fact that about 70% of our questions that we're getting and comments is related directly to the coronavirus. Things such as in-person instruction, distance learning, blended instruction, sports programs, and all of that. So getting a lot of feedback, but a lot of it is associated with that. Overall, though, just speaking personally from the questions that I've received and the feedback that I've received, I feel that we're doing a really good job of providing them with timely information and good information. The creation of the roadmap that went out early on during the summer was a really big step in the right direction, because it's so important for everyone to understand that each school district has local or indigenous factors associated with it. So you have issues such as the poverty level of the students, whether or not the district has the one-to-one initiative, whether or not there's people in the infrastructure that can handle a lot of different concerns. So the plan has helped, was the basis, the framework, the foundation rather, that helped the process get started. But yes, sir, Dr. Reynolds, we do get feedback from the State Department of Education. We're constantly monitoring the feedback that we have. We have at least one meeting a month, one meeting a week with Dr. Mackey, where we share some of the bigger concerns, and we always put our heads together and come up with strategies on how we could better service the LEAs and deal with the concerns that come our particular way. In addition to having those particular meetings, we do have discussions where we talk about how we can fix problems, and it may be special committees that are put together to address those particular concerns.
I would add, what I'm specifically requesting is that when we have contacts with LEAs, and several of the LEAs in my district have undergone extraordinary events, not only with COVID, but one of my districts has had the ransomware issue. Are we calling back and asking, did we answer your question? Is there a quality control process? You know, it's like when I visit physicians or I deal with certain things online, I get inquiries asking to rate the quality of service that various people provide. We think we're answering the question, but are we gathering some quantitative, qualitative data to determine if we're really answering the question we think we're answering?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Dr. Elizabeth Davis and I had this discussion, and we were talking about the Huntsville matter a few days ago, and she was sharing with me that she was in contact with the superintendent, Dr. Finley, in that particular situation, and shared some of the conversations that they've had and some of the strategies that we recommended to her on how to handle things such as do they have to make up those days, and some of the issues related to technology. So yes, sir, absolutely. We do have those types of discussions and receive feedback.
I'm sorry, may I just share one?
Sure, Dr. Davis.
The one you mentioned, Dr. Reynolds, is a good example because small details are so critical. Like Christine, Dr. Finley still cannot get emails, and so little things like making sure that those details, like sending her the midweek matters and those types of things to her personal email. So it's, like you said, it's those follow-up things to make sure details like trying to collect Chromebooks and making sure the hours are complete for the instructional hours, those kinds of things. And I think we've tried to split those based on the different areas and who they feel comfortable working with. But I welcome also that the thought of the collection of the qualitative, quantitative information, because I think we're all doing it based on those needs. So yes, sir, that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
And if you're going to communicate to the legislature and the public at home, they may or may not see the role of the State Department of Education, or in this case, the state board, that we're actively involved in these groups. And I think we need to be, Dr. Davis, more forthright and public in our presentation that we are involved, because recent announcements in not only that district, in many other LEAs in my district are disturbing, and they may not see that we have a role. And I know we're doing a lot of meetings, and sometimes the public and my perception of meetings are meetings, but they're not necessarily productive activities.
I think it's also important too, Dr. Reynolds, is that when we get our new website up and running, we'll have more information regarding things to help the school district and information about accountability. So we're in the process of updating the website, but we're going to make sure that we are able to provide a holistic service program to make sure that the LEAs feel comfortable contacting us, and they feel good with the fact that we're providing ample amount of information to assist them.
And Dr. Reynolds,
The website, I got a call and contact this morning from Athens State University because they need somebody to sign on a bond issue and they said they had great difficulty in locating me. And if that's the website of all things, should have contact information for we state school board members. And we've been talking about this for a long time, and we need to move forward and get it done.
Absolutely, and as Dr. Mackey mentioned earlier, we're moving full speed ahead with a new company that's going to get us on the right track much quicker, and a user-friendly website so that your information as well as the information of other board members will be so anyone can clearly get that information on our new website.
Okay, any other questions? I think since it's about 12:30, why don't we pause at this moment for lunch and reconvene at 1 o'clock? So everybody have a nice lunch, and we'll be back here at 1 o'clock.
Jerry.
I like this system. So, I mean, and it, to me, it's, I like to know who to call. And so, it helps me talk about, something that's